आपको वेबसाइट बनवानी है. And they were like, क्या आप हमें Google पे number 1 ले आओगे? All that time that I spent saying thank you for calling Adobe, that's where I learned what to say when I say to somebody, hi, I'm calling from Adobe.
But now it makes sense.
People will say, यार कर तो लिया, आता तो कुछ है नहीं. Find the loophole, find that limitation that somebody is facing and serve that purpose. They are going to play for you.
What is the point of a course if you actually don't know?
They don't live by the breath or health, but they live by the time. How much time do they have? They have a clock on their wrist which is running out. And I went crying back to my manager that there is no career path here. I need to leave the company. When I joined Dell, I did not know how to speak English. You'd be surprised to know.
One of the most important things that matter today is how you stay relevant. Even LinkedIn, if you had noticed, allows you to now include your career breaks. All you have to do is just own it. So staying relevant and owning yourself are the mantras for today's episode. Hey folks, welcome to our next episode of Explore, where we learn how to navigate through your early career years, how not to be shy of any upcoming opportunity, and how to make the best out of everything that comes your way. So without much further ado, let's get to it. Today with us, we have a personality who has started his journey in 2009 as a technical associate at Dell, only to go through some very challenging and distinct roles such as a software engineer, a business development consultant, account development manager, and who is currently a demand manager. This personality has shown that growth and learning go hand in hand in the corporate world. We welcome Mr. Puneet Aneja to yet another exciting episode of Explore.
I am feeling pretty good, and it's feels pretty good actually to hear that I've done so many things, and to hear it from somebody else is amazing. Thanks for that. But I'm not sure if it's really worth the time that I'm gonna spend with you. So all the journey that I've had. So let's see.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, amazing and inspiring as well. So, considering that our listeners are mostly young professionals who are looking to start their career off. So, thank you for doing this, sir. And thank you for taking your time out for this, right? And I'm sure our listeners are all geared up to sort of pick up tips from you and get started. So, since you do have experience in business development, and that is one profile that we see being advertised left, right, and center by a lot of companies right now, right? They've been actively hiring for business development roles. So for an applicant, what sort of advice would you give them? What sort of challenges that they should be aware of before going out there?
See, on this context, first and foremost, I would want all the listeners to understand that every now and then you would hear a new buzzword. I mean, when I was in my engineering in my final year or my third year, I used to hear software engineer or designer used to be the buzzword, and everybody wanted to be a software engineer. Regardless of the fact that I was doing computer science, I didn't know what a software engineer does. And similarly, since the last 13 years that I've been working, as you mentioned, I've traversed through multiple profiles. I was figuring out what works best for me. We will hear the words in terms of maybe saying that this is business development, this is customer success, this is customer experience. All the fancy English jargons are going to hit your head, and you will feel like, am I really this person? That.
Right.
So to that, I'd say there are two main things that I have understood in the last 13 years. That one thing is what we call a domain. The second thing is a profile. Domain is in which industry and what particular function that you're going to perform. And the other thing is profile. If I go in a very simple matter, one person would be selling, one person would be creating, one person would be maintaining. And when I say a person, that's the team. So there are people who are selling the proposition or a product or a service that you are creating. There are people who are creating those services, which we call the developers, designers, testers. So this is from the tech aspect of it. But there are so many job functions that we have in bigger organizations, which we don't realize in the earlier times in startups when we are doing so many things and wearing so many hats. So we need to figure out what works best for us. And needless to say, as you saw, I started as a technical consultant. That's where I was learning how it used to work technically. I moved into sales. I moved into pre-sales. So the idea is to figure out how you would want to traverse your journey where you would understand that this is something I enjoy doing. And in our initial years, we tend to run towards certain profiles that, okay, I want to become this. I want to become a management consultant. I want to become a business development officer, like you said. So all of this would only be understood by you that once you are into it, you know that this is how the complete sales or complete customer success life cycle happens. And that's where you go about it. And if you really want to know how to get into business development, the idea is to be somebody who is able to persuade rather than push. So you persuade somebody to be thinking about what does the product do and is it really solving your problem. Similarly, when you would want to propose to somebody, you would want to persuade somebody to really develop business for your organization. You need to understand the concept that it's all about learning on your own first, and that's when you go ahead and be persuading somebody else to purchase or get enrolled into your offering. So that's what business development is all about.
Sounds perfect. In fact, I think the way you began your answer, right, that we tend to use industry and domain interchangeably, and I think now it's high time that we sort of deep dive and understand what they actually mean. So this was super insightful. But sir, you have traveled across multiple profiles, so that means you have a huge risk appetite, right? For you to be able to take that leap of faith and switch from tech to sales. I mean, how do you do that? How do you think people who are starting their career should look at that?
See, we come from a country which is conservative. We have our parents who've been investing into FDs, PPFs, and EPFs. That's what I tell
Absolutely.
everybody. So it's the era of cryptocurrency, it's the era of stock market, it's the era of mutual funds. The risk appetite will totally depend on what's the kind of return that you've seen. If you ask me year one, did I know if I was going to reach where I am today? No. The only thing that I used to do is that when I was in a profile, when I began my career, I used to wonder that if there is something better that can happen from here, what could it be? We have heard these questions, right? That where do you see yourself within 5 years? Where do you see yourself within 10 years? Imagine if somebody was asking you a question in 2019, would you have an answer considering COVID? The
Absolutely. Yes.
vulnerability and unpredictability is so high in the world that you don't know where you're going to head out. All of us, we get into fancy engineering colleges and then look forward to crack the CAT exam and get into good MBA colleges to see that, okay, I'll become that. That's good. We prepare, we try to crack the exam, we try to get into a good institution where we're learning stuff. But then if you ask me how I carved my career was, I was only looking forward to the next move. And it did
Okay.
not come easy. I mean, the most time that I've spent in my career, around 8 years and a quarter, was with Adobe. I joined Adobe from a very small organization. So I always tell this funnily to people when I began my career. I'll quickly give you a snapshot for the listeners to understand where I was and where I landed. 2009 recession was there. I could not get a software job. After doing an engineer, everybody wanted to get into Infosys, TCS of the world, but I was not having that high kind of an acumen. So I literally was looking forward to a job that so that I don't have to ask money from home after my engineering's done. So the first job I got was with Dell. That was a call center, and call center back in my time was not very respected by small towners. My family was from small
Right.
town, and they're like, you're gonna work in night shift and then in a call center. So my grandparents used to ask, do you repair machines of Americans? Do they get faulty and do the repair? So it was a tough time to figure out that how to convince your parents that you are getting into something. And I had a lot of learning there. What I learned was what the products do, and computer peripherals was something that was keeping me intrigued. And that's where I got to know what's the difference between a hardware and a software engineer, which I said in the beginning. Post that, spent some time, learned about products, night shift kicked in, and then though we used to wake up till late in the college, there was no Netflix back in my time, but then we used to watch movies on those traditional CDs. I realized that night shift is not the place to be. I moved into a job and I thought, let's be a software engineer. I went into a company and asked them, can you give me a job? They were like, do you know coding? I said, no. Then they said, why would we give you a job? So I told them that I know how people really interact and I can add the concept of people application into your softwares. So I was literally sitting with my notepad, budding somebody and understanding. I luckily got that job after a 3 months of internship, apart from my night job, and then got into that company as a software engineer. Wrote code for a year. Then I thought, no, this is not something that I want to do. And this will happen to each and every one of you while you're beginning your career. And you never know, even after 10, 15 years, maybe it's happening to me right now while I'm talking. So that's when I moved into another job where I said, okay, it's the boom of Android, iOS. Let me sell applications. I will go. I learned about creating those applications in that organization, small organization. And then I went into a business development role, which you were just initially talking about, where I was selling mobile application websites, literally on my motorcycle, place to place, and asking people, आपको website बनवानी है? And they were like, क्या आप हमें Google पे number one ले आओगे? So I was like, first you create a digital footprint, and that's when you realize that how it's gonna get onto Google. And similarly, I'm talking about 13 years back, but then there will be an era change now also. We are sitting in 2022. When somebody hears this in 2030s, they will know how things have changed. I'm not sure if you've seen the era of the cassettes that we used to have, but you would have seen the era of CDs. That went into pen drives, and then pen drives became Google Drives. So similarly, the products become obsolete, the offerings becomes obsolete. The only thing that's going to stay with you is how you are going to stay relevant. Long story short, I went into that job. That's when I realized that no, I want to get back to MNC. Like everybody thinks, they are big companies, they pay you well, they have benefits. I want to get into Google. I want to get into this company. So literally, I stepped down 4 levels after being a business development officer and joined Adobe as a technical consultant, where I was again doing, thank you for calling Adobe. How may I help you? So I was listening to the problems and understanding what people are really doing. And my parents were making fun. You spent 3 years, became a software engineer, then started selling software. Then again, you're doing, thank you for calling Adobe. What's your problem? Something is wrong with this guy. But then the moment I joined that organization with the perspective of understanding how customer psyche behaves, and luckily I used to love computer graphics in my computer engineering, and I knew about how vectors work, how color codings work, and Photoshop became my go-to product. And I was selling, and lucky me, the era changed. Everything moved into cloud. Gone were the days where people were buying CDs. I learned about proposing solutions to the customers. That was where I was coming from, and that was the eureka moment for me. I went into the leadership of sales team. I told them, "Can you hire me?" And they were like, "You don't know sales. How would we hire you? You don't have an MBA." And I went crying back to my manager that there is no career path here. I need to leave the company. So she said, "Okay, what is the career path that you're looking forward to?" I said, I want to go do an MBA. So she said, "Why don't you do an MBA here?" And some organization like Adobe give you an opportunity to learn. And I was very lucky to get the opportunity to be studying MBA from one of the premium institution, which was MDI Gurgaon, where I cracked the exam, and I was studying also and I was earning also, and Adobe was funding for my education from MDI. Post that, I met a lot of people who were like double of my age. I was 27 back then, and there were people who were of my father's age, and I was learning from them how things were happening. I paved my path into sales. I started learning. I was again saying, rather than saying thank you for calling Adobe, I was saying, "Hi, I'm calling from Adobe. I wanted to speak with you about this." So all that time that I spent saying thank you for calling Adobe, that's where I learned what to say when I say to somebody, "Hi, I'm calling from Adobe." Long story short, digital marketing hit in. I sold a lot of products, services, offerings that Adobe had, and I moved into another league, which was pre-sales. I learned about how propositions are built for bigger organizations, and I was faring well. And then I again moved into sales after spending 3 years to sell consulting services. So basically, you would have a product, you would have a service, but after somebody has bought, how do you get recurring revenue? How do you get more money from somebody who's already trusted in you, right? So there's a very beautiful statement that I heard that time that was like, a penny saved is better than a penny earned. So if you've really earned a customer, why would you not want to go in a recurring revenue? And if you see anybody in this world is just trying to do that, may you be a student of a college or a website, let's say Upgrad, they are reselling you courses because they know that you've trusted in them once, and why would you not go ahead with them again? Because you might have felt some value while you invested in them.
Absolutely.
Moved
Absolutely.
in that, and then the finance bug kicked me, and eventually I left Adobe. I thought, why not do pure business development and earn more money? And I went into MasterCard. I got an opportunity to be a people manager. Held four people from fancy IIM colleges, which were way more smarter than me. And I was like, do I really get to lead them, and what do I really tell them? They were very good with finance. They could create financial models. They were very good with Excel and PPTs, which I wasn't. But then I was working with them during the pandemic time, sitting at home. I spent around 5 quarters. Then that's where I realized, no, finance is not the play that I want to play again. So let's move out. And luckily, I am now in my current job, which I have spent almost a year today. So currently, I'm the demand manager for SAP India MidMarket, and all the learnings that I've had for 12 years let me get through this role. And this was the first company where I got the call rather than applying for a job. So they wanted somebody who could lead the business to help the salespeople generate more pipeline. And currently, I'm ensuring that the running 4 quarters that we are able to get enough leads. And I'm working with marketing, I'm working with partner teams. So it's a big landscape that I'm still learning with, and I'm pretty happy with where I have reached. So net, what I would want to tell you with all this journey, and the reason to tell you all this is, you would never figure out where you're headed after 5 years. The only move that you need to be planning is the next one. You might like something today, but you might not like that tomorrow. And there are time zones. We're in India. You would get roles which are in NA market. You would get roles in EMEA markets. You need to see what suits you best, because the right balance of work and family would let you go further in your life. I've seen people who are into certain jobs just for the sake of earning money, because they think that's where they can earn more, but that's giving them a toss on their life. That is not sustainable. So we need to blend in. And I'm sure we all of us have heard a lot of influencer, Instagrammers, or YouTubers saying about what to do, what not to do. Read those books, read that. The holistic message is, be yourself, choose the best for yourself, keep exploring, and that's how the 40, 50 years of your career would stay exciting.
Wow. First up, sir, thank you so much for being very honest, right? Whenever we ask this question, we usually get answers like, yeah, you need to work hard, you need to keep at it. But nobody has ever told us what it actually takes to do it on ground, right? Yes, there are disappointments, there are rejections, there are going to be points where we're going to doubt ourselves. So, and you also, I think, given our listeners a very important lesson that not all journey is going to be linear. You're not going to do an engineering, an MBA, and land a fancy job and keep at it. So I think that's a very important takeaway from this whole thing. But since you've spoken so much about sales, I do know, or rather, we all do know that it comes with a lot of rejections, right? Customers are always going to say no. How do you deal with that?
See, it's a rule where we say if you make 100 calls, only 10 people will take your call and one person would buy. So I was just telling the same story to my wife who works at Google. She's like that we see a lot of rejections even after being Google, and so many people questioning our abilities to, propose in something in terms of digital marketing. But my thing is that either you will progress or you will prepare. Those people who say I'm not lucky, I am not able to get those 10 customers to close for me. So imagine if you're making 100 calls, then there are 10 people responding to you and one person is buying. What would you do to make sure that 10 people are buying? You will make 1,000 calls. So it's all about conversion ratios. It's all about the effort that you make. I'm not saying do hard work or do smart work. I'm literally nobody to teach anybody methodologies of life or working out. But what I can tell you is keep attempting. Keep attempting the methods. So the easiest way to get something done is to give it to the most lazy person. They will figure out how to do it sooner, quicker, and in the least possible investment way. It's the era of ROIs. Everybody is talking about return on investment. What do I put in and what do I get out? If I'm like investing 1 hour today with you right now, I'm thinking of, before doing that, what do I get from that? What's in it for me? That's how you would want to do that. And with rejections, you don't have to take it to your heart. And so goes for success. Don't take it to your head. If you take your success to your head, you will keep bragging on LinkedIn. I did this, I did that, and I'm the master of the world. I used to fly rockets and whatnot. And then the other day you are disappointed. And then if you take rejections to your heart, okay, I can't do this, you will get into depression, and then you will keep crying on LinkedIn, I have been applying on this job and nobody's helping me. Why don't you help me? The only person who's going to help you is you yourself on your own. Yes, you can seek guidance. Yes, you can seek mentoring, but rejections are part and parcel of life. Imagine, so a lot of people like newbies and young teenagers want to go to Ladakh. You have a way to go via flight, right? Straight, you take a flight from Delhi, land into Ladakh, and then you acclimatize yourself for 3 days, and then you enjoy, and then you come back. But a lot of people who are from going from bikes, from cars, and from different other by road sources, what are they enjoying? They're enjoying the journey. So if there would have been a simple way to do something, you can do that. But that's not going to give you that experience. So all these rejections that you will face in your career, may it be your interviews, in your customer conversations, where they're saying you will know the next time when this comes what to say. So it's your pitch. So all those rejections, you will realize, right, that this customer said this to me. So next time if somebody says this to me, what do I say? So you always will have a rebuttal for every offering that we have. And I was reading this thing in the morning that, so there was this campaign that Shah Rukh Khan did, that he had a FOMO of joining Hotstar, that everything is getting on
Right.
OTT. And I was amazed to see how every brand jumped into it saying that, Shah Rukh, you do this because we are already doing that. There is always competition. There will be always somebody who does something better than you. There will be always somebody who is doing something great. And I'm a big fan of the movie Rocket Singh, which I saw early in my life, and that's where I learned that you somebody might be leader of the world, but if you do things differently, find the gap, find the loophole, find that limitation that somebody is facing, and serve that purpose, they are going to pray for you. And it's the era of startups, new organizations, which are beating legacy companies who've been there for 50
Absolutely.
years. I
Yes.
work I work for SAP, and you would not believe the kind of deals we lose to small companies, 15 people company, and the kind of proposition they give to our customers. Even we, at times, we in our heart know that they're better than us.
Right, right. Good to know that there are so many other options, right? Instead of just going behind the MNCs or the big established companies.
Yes,
I think it's opening up a lot of platforms for young people.
absolutely.
Great, great. So, sir, now that you brought up the topic of opportunities, the one thing that happened because of the whole pandemic was that information became accessible to anybody and everybody, right? There were hundreds and millions of online courses that people were grabbing their hands at. So, what do you think are some of the important certifications or courses that somebody should pick up?
You'll be surprised to know this is my favorite question that I get asked every second or third month by everybody. Sir, कौन सा कोर्स कर लूं कि मेरी यहाँ पर जॉब लग जाए?
Yeah.
कौन सा सर्टिफिकेशन कर लूं कि सर मेरी यहाँ पर जॉब लग जाए? मुझे
Yeah.
बता दो बस आप, मैं खरीद लूंगा. So I'll go back again back into 2013, where I wanted to do an MBA. So and everybody comes up to me, यार MBA चाहिए ना sales के लिए. You do it from this college. They are offering a correspondence course. Why do you have to go to college, attend classes, learn all that? That's where I came from a philosophy. It's not about the degree. It's not about the certification. It's not about the course. It's about the learning that you will get in that. Yes, I agree that all these upgrades and all the e-learning platforms that we have, they offer you
Right.
great structured courses. They're very expensive. They're very, very expensive. And I've also done around a course for digital marketing and communication. I've mentioned upgrade quite a while from, because I always wanted to do something from MICA, one of the greatest colleges that we have in India for marketing. It was a 1 lakh rupees course. They taught very well. Teachers were amazing. And the peers in my class that I got to meet on WhatsApp obviously were great. But then the moment that course finished, I realized everything that they taught was available online for free. I was like, why did I pay 1 lakh rupees? So
Yes.
I paid that amount to be lazy, to be a sloth peer, to not search and not structure things for myself. And currently, everything is available online on free. And I have heard this from Elon Musk that colleges, institutions, Platforms are all for creating community. Everything is available for free. So let's say if somebody wants to get into a domain, and I'm talking of an era in my 2009, there used to be courses for SAP, courses for ERP. People are paying like 2 lakh rupees above their engineering fees just to earn that course. People were doing Microsoft courses, MCSC, CSC, and this and that and whatnot. And then from Cisco, they were networking courses, CCNA, CCNP, and all that, and all those fancy lingo jargons. One question that I asked in my communications class in my MBA was, "Sir, ye banata kaun hai course?" And my teacher was like that, "Why don't you ask Americans who are so good at branding things and getting a consolidated information?" So the first marketing lesson that you would have learned is that it's the packaging. All these courses are packages in which they sell you a structured information. But if you would want to get into a domain, just figure out two things. You want to get into any company, first and foremost, read their Wikipedia page. What
Right.
they do, how they do, when they do, and what's the kind of problem that they're facing. And then you read about the technology that they would have. I'll take the best example that I give to a lot of people recently. People say that I want to get into Google. So, first and foremost, you would want to know what all Google does. Then the second thing is all that they do, what are the technologies, what are the softwares, or what are the methodologies that they use to serve their customers. So I would say, okay, you do a basic Google AdWords course, which is readily, freely available because they want people to learn. And I'll come up by saying my favorite example. Windows, 95% of Windows deployed in world was pirated. Why? Because he wanted everybody to learn Windows and have everybody prefer Windows over and above. And by the sake of that, he is able to sell all those Windows computers, and you and I are using Windows instead of iOS or any Unix or Linux or anything else. So every organization who is really looking forward to spread their proposition, their software, their technology, they are giving it for free. It's all about you searching for it. You would not believe even Harvard has a portal for which you can read so many courses, maybe on any vivid topics like philosophy and whatnot. It's available for free. You can literally learn everything for free. You want to get into any company, read about them, go to their Wikipedia page, go to their website, read about their products, start learning those products. And when you get into those interview, if you've done some fancy course or certification and you don't know about it, it will be counterproductive. People will say, "Yaar, kar to liya, aata to kuch hai nahi." But then if you go into a company where you have not done course, but you know everything, that's where they will say, yes, this person has the persistence, has the acumen, has the IQ to understand what we do, and this person has come prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when you quoted the Shah Rukh Khan example, I think most of us also had this FOMO because we kept seeing certifications on LinkedIn all over our
Yes.
newsfeed. And we wanted to jump the bandwagon. I mean, we were very scared. I think most of us were scared that what if we don't do this course? Maybe we don't get any opportunities. So I think that's where it all started. But now it makes sense. I mean, what is the point of a course if you actually don't know what you're talking about in an interview? So thank you for clearing our conscience up on that. So we're going to consciously make
So
an effort and seek knowledge that we really need.
one more important point on that, Shweta. So the first session that I did, the lecture that I gave at GIM was about USP. That was my first one, surprisingly. I got reached
Right.
out by somebody. So I talked to people about the USP concept. I mean, you might do n number of certification, post it on LinkedIn, do this, do that, and whatnot. But then when you go for an interview, there'll be 100 people sitting just next to you, wearing the same suit, having the same degree, or even better certification than you. But why would somebody hire you? It's all about the USP. What's the unique selling proposition that you bring on your table? And I gave that framework that I created for myself, that it's all about aura. When we say A, you absorb your surroundings, you understand what's going around, R, you retain all that you learn from all that absorption and understanding. That this is what's going to stay with me. And that's when the time of articulation will come, which is AURA: absorb, understand, retain, and articulate. Articulation is when you speak with somebody on LinkedIn, may it be on a simple chat or an email that you send, or on a phone call, or in an interview call. If they realize that this person is bringing something which they don't already have, I'm sure they're going to hire you and prefer you for any of their respective job functions that they're going to come up with anytime soon.
That's great to hear, sir. So yeah, we're gonna keep that in mind. That's a good framework to work with, also quite easy to remember. So I think USP is the buzzword we're gonna go ahead with when we start doing our preparation right after this. You started your career back in 2009. It's been more than a decade now, and you must have literally seen technology seep in through every single processes that you've been a part of. So I mean, it has taken over your domain or industry, as you might call it. How do you feel about that?
See, any new advancement that comes in the world of business, they have equal amount of pros and cons, is what I'll tell you. Though yes, technology has made everything easy. Like I gave you an example. Now you don't have to dial the phone by picking up the phone and
Right.
dial the number because you have dialers available. One of the movie that I always quote to everybody, I saw the movie The Pursuit of Happiness, where Will Smith is literally keeping the phone on his ear so that he does not have to keep it down and waste those 5-10 seconds. That thing has been eliminated. But then what I've realized that people have become so addicted and slave to some part of technology that they are not able to do things if those things are not available. So we need to ensure that we have the right kind of balance. Though yes, technology does a lot of things, but artificial intelligence is what I call it. Intelligence is what software gives you to do things that you were doing on your own to expedite your time, to do it faster, quicker, in a better or more predictable way. But then, yes, even after serving so many sophisticated software organization like Adobe, Mastercard, and then now SAP, and then Dell, I would still say that we need to take the right balance and ensure that all that the technology is doing, if in case this eliminates from your life one day, you are able to do it without that also. Only then you become a individual, a professional who can do it regardless. So that's what we need to live by.
True. We need to, I mean, we need to catch up with them, right? We can't just let technology take over and be
We have
lethargic
to
about
stay,
it.
yeah, we have to stay relevant, is what
Yes,
I'd say. I mean,
absolutely.
every now next day, I mean, there are like thousands and lakhs of engineers and MBAs getting out of colleges. They would need to do things, they'd be doing things differently. But then somebody would prefer you if you are somebody who does not have any dependency on any particular thing. May it be anything, may it be software, you were doing things. Yes, there are some things which cannot happen without a software, like you cannot create an illustration without Adobe Illustrator. You would not be able to do it. But I've seen designers who create logos by their hand on a
And
paper and
Ron,
then
yes.
digitize it. And those designs till date. So why I'm giving this example, I was going out to buy some piece of furniture for my house. There are all the fancy softwares available to do that, but the creativity, but the actual unique thing that somebody could do that for you is to draw it on a paper and then visualize it and then create the actual version of it. We have the 3D printers available now in the world, but do you think they are doing the same job what a Bentley maker does? A machine creates a Hyundai, but a Bentley is created handmade. It's been spoke,
Handcrafted, absolutely.
handcrafted.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I think there is also, I'm not sure if this is an exact quote, right? Artificial intelligence, artificial is taken care by the machine, but intelligence is always from the human touch. So it's good to know that we do have an upper hand at this point, at least. So again, like you said, there are hundreds and millions of engineering graduates or people who are, getting into the market currently. But most of these people, also seem to have a gap here in their profile due to some reason or the other. Uh, I mean, not many companies entertain the gap year. So, what do you think applicants should do to make up for the gap year?
So I'll start by saying I'm not sure if you realize LinkedIn has allowed you an opportunity to enter your gap year.
Yes.
So they let you own it. They tell you that if you have had some things in your life, you owned it. I mean, though I agree that a lot of traditional companies do not allow gap year and they want to realize because the sense of vulnerability that you bring, that what were you doing for that particular time is something that you need to define for them. What were you doing and what happened to you? May it be a medical emergency or family emergency or something that you could not figure out and you were taking a gap and people were doing their startup stints. That's why they could not work. So gone are those days where you would be scared about your gap years because now it's all about opening up. if one of the most sophisticated career website lets you own that thing and write it out in public that yes, I was not working for these many years or these many months, this is where you need to identify and again sell yourself by saying that these are the things that I was doing for these many years, or if you failed, own those failures. And if at all some place or some organization is not really accepting you for your gap year, maybe this that place is not meant for you, is what I'll say by saying. I mean, it's a philosophical way to go about it, but then you will have a lot of options. I mean, not one. It's all about attempting again. That rather than making 100 calls, make 1,000. You will get somewhere, and there'll be somebody in that leadership. You might have had a gap year, but might be scared to show out in public, but wants to give an opportunity to somebody who had the gap year because he could not get that opportunity on his own.
Absolutely. So your advice is to own it rather than,
Absolutely.
No, I mean, and this is a recent phenomenon, right? Like only in the past 4, 5 years, I'm actually seeing people who are coming up and, being open about the fact that there's been a gap. 10 years back, I don't think, at least I can imagine, publicly putting it out there that I have a
Yeah.
gap. So,
See, I spoke about USP, right? The only
yeah,
unique thing about yourself is being yourself. I mean, no two journeys are same. I mean, you check the thumb imprints of your 5 friends, and maybe for 5 million people, every thumb imprint is different. So it goes for career journeys, education journey, family backgrounds. There are some things you cannot control, and all those things which are uncontrollable variable is what you need not to worry about. What you can worry about is about the controllable variable. Let's say you had a gap year and you did not do anything that time.
right.
When you meet somebody, you tell them that I was figuring out life. I was trying to do this thing. I had a failure. Was trying something. I wanted to be a cricketer. I was preparing for an IS. It's all about the persistence and consistency that somebody would realize. Is this person focused enough to do that again? They would appreciate the fact that you failed once and then picked yourself up again and then again want to join a job and get into the journey of learning ahead of all those who are still having that time sitting at home figuring out what to do. It's all about execution. I've heard this a lot of times, sir, ये तो मेरा idea था, ये startup कैसे बन गया? So I tell them that because somebody executed, right?
Right.
You might have told them, but somebody executed. There's a very famous example where people say Mark Zuckerberg stole the idea from those brothers. I don't even remember those names.
Correct.
Saw in the movie. But then that guy executed and played on it and he's still executing. He brought the ideas into play. You might have had an amazing idea. Oh, everybody knows that if you do push ups every day, you might get a better chest. You might look like Ranveer Singh or Hrithik Roshan. But how many of us really do 10 push ups a day?
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
Everybody knows that.
Right. I know idea without intent is nothing, right? It's just a thought. So true that.
Execution is
Yeah. And
consistency and execution is the key.
absolutely. And we also need to be accountable for our choices, right? Yes, we took a gap year. So I think we need to sort of own up to it and go with the flow. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So if there is one last piece of advice for our listeners, Puneet sir, what is it? What is the thought that you'd like to leave them with?
Current day, present day, what thought I have for everybody is there's a content overload everywhere. May it be in education, may it be on your social media, Instagrams, and whatnot. May it be books for that matter, may it be YouTubers that you listen to. Everybody is trying to sell you something, some way. If they are not charging you, you are the product. So choose and invest your time wisely. And I leave you by saying this. I again saw one of my favorite movies. The movie's name is In Time. It's on Netflix. It's the era where people have they don't live by the breath or health, but they live by the time. How much time do they have? They have a clock on their wrist which is running out. So make sure you're investing your time wisely. I'm not saying stop partying, stop enjoying, stop going to go out clubs or what you do like playing cricket or basketball, but invest your time wisely. Because whatever age you are today, you are at this particular age for the last time. The hard fact is the more your age moves ahead, the absorption power, the consumption power of things, content, your comprehension is bound to take more energy. I would not say it reduces, but it takes more energy. What you could do being a 21-year-old, if you want to do being 42-year-old, it's going to take more effort. Your life
Absolutely.
situations will change. You will have your families. So invest your time wisely and have the right balance of health, of reading, of spending time on your computers, because all that we learn is about experiences. I tell you, the last thought that I have on my head right now is that when I joined Dell, I did not know how to speak English. You'd be surprised to know. I literally used to join words after hearing from people, read newspapers, magazines, and I used to invest that, okay, if I invest 2 hours today, how much of English do I learn? And I used to repeat in front of a mirror. So practice, and then you will get ahead in the curve. Everything will follow, may it be money, may it be peace, may it be profile, may it be role, company, everything is achievable. It's all about getting onto it and trying, attempting, executing, and investing your time wisely.
Wow. Thank you so much, Puneet sir. In fact, I'm not just speaking for myself, I'm sure I'm speaking for the audience as well, that we had a ton of learnings to take back and work upon, right? And also a Netflix recommendation for the weekend. I'm going to watch in time. So, so thank you so much for all of this. And, they're going to be grateful for you sharing your experience with them, considering that it's a very diverse profile, right? It's very hard to find someone who's seen both ends of the spectrum. So that way, this was super insightful, Puneet sir. We also would like to, build a community of young professionals who don't shy away from a challenge, and you are a great example of that. So thank you so much, Puneet, yet again, and thank you, listeners, for being with us. And we promise to be back with yet another exciting episode of Explore.
Thank you, Shweta. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for spending your time with us. We hope you found the session to be of some value. Stay tuned for our next session, as we will be hosting another eminent personality who will take us on a thought provoking journey through Explore. Until then, don't forget to subscribe to Explore on Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. One more from example? Check out the link in the description for our Instagram and LinkedIn handles.